what does it mean to be Spanish, to be Spaniard, and how the religion, the Catholicism, and also Islam is related to this identity, and also how the legacy of Al-Andalus is integrated in our identity.
Hello and welcome. My name is Serhat Suha Çubukçuoğlu. I am a senior fellow in strategic studies at Trends Research and Advisory here in Abu Dhabi, UAE. We have a very special guest today, Dr. Jaume Flaquer.
Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon.
I'm very happy to be here in Trends, but also in Emirates, which is a very wonderful country and very interesting also.
Bienvenido, con mucho gusto, señor. Dr. Flaquer is from the Faculty of Theology at Loyola University in Granada, Spain. And he's with us on the occasion of the 4-day conference on Islam and human fraternity, co-organized by the Ministry of Coexistence and Tolerance of the United Arab Emirates and Trans Research and Advisory here in our offices. We're going to talk today about the past and present of Islamic culture in Spain and some of the currents that Dr. Flaquer has observed on the state of Islam and communities, the Muslim community in Spain, and how they're integrated, what some challenges they're facing, and possible pathways forward. As you may know, Spain has a rich cultural legacy of Islam dating from the 8th century AD up till the 15th century. And if you visit there, especially Andalusia region, you would see a lot of remnants, monuments, and marks of that period of what's termed as the golden period of the Umayyad Empire at the time in Europe. With that as a background, I'd like to turn to you, Dr. Flaquer, and ask your view on the legacy of Islam. How has the historical legacy of Islam in Spain influenced the contemporary situation of Islam in the country, especially when you, knowing and keeping in mind that you have a PhD in Islamic studies? Are there distinct cultural or religious practices that have endured or evolved over the time?
First of all, we have to say that at the end, the Andalusian period ended at the end of 15th century. They stayed Muslims in Spain during 15th century, but then the Moriscos. They were expelled from Spain. Most of them went to Morocco and to other parts of the world. And from that time, I could say that the remembrance of this period, they try to disappear this period, as if this period was not a period of Spanish history, but a kind of parenthesis of Spanish history. So Spaniards at that time used to think that Andalusian period was a part of the history of the others, of Muslim countries, of Arab countries, but not a history of Spain. What are now dealing is with the identity of Spain. What does it mean to be Spanish? To be Spaniard, and how the religion, the Catholicism, and also Islam is related to this identity, and also how the legacy of Al-Andalus is integrated in our identity. All the countries has to deal with the identity, especially when in those countries that I would say they are well, all the countries in the world, in fact, they are plural. Mm-hmm. Or at least if you see the history of those countries, there has been many different cultures in that region. So we are dealing with this question: how we integrate the history of Al-Andalus in the contemporary identity of Spain. Their legacy is huge. First of all, in the language.
Of course.
In Spanish language, but also in Catalan language, in other languages in Spain, we have more than 2,000 words of Spanish language that comes from Arabic, mm-hmm. which is huge, of course. Many of these words were used in the past and no longer are used, but they are still there. But there are also very common words that come from Arabic. And so this part of the history is inside of the present of our culture today. But we have also an architectural history, a legacy, which is especially the mosque of Córdoba, and also Alhambra in Granada, which are two main buildings that hopefully we have kept, and the Spanish people have not destroyed those buildings. Yeah. So the Spanish people in the 16th century, 17th century, they try to erase the memory of that period, but hopefully they don't destroy these big buildings, and also they don't destroy or neglect the words that in Spanish they are telling us that we are also Arabs in some way.
Yeah, and I was fortunate enough to visit those places, the ones mm-hmm. that you just mentioned, the Alhambra, Generalife, and La Mezquita Catedral, yep. Córdoba, also the Giralda in Seville, and the palace there, which has been heavily influenced by the Moorish architectural style, as you mentioned. Likes of which you can also see in Morocco. If you go to, so for instance, Marrakesh, almost a carbon replica of the Giralda is there in the main mosque. Yep. So Spain carries this rich history of coexistence of the three main monotheistic religions that lived in peace and harmony during the Umayyad era there. Coming to our present day, Professor, I'd like to touch a little bit on the current status of Islam in Spain and some of the sects and branches of it that remain and act and survive in the country. So can you provide some insights into the various currents or sects within Islam that coexist in Spain, and how do these different groups contribute to the diversity of Islamic culture and practice and belief of the Muslim community in Spain today?
Yeah. Well, I would say that Islam in Spain is very, very plural. Mm-hmm. We have almost all the currents that exist in the world, Islamic currents. We have them in Spain, not in the same proportion, because most of the Muslims, they come from Morocco. There are also some Muslims coming from Algeria, not much, but and also some Pakistani people. Especially in Barcelona, in Catalonia, there are a lot of Pakistani people there, and Muslims coming from sub-Saharan region. There are a lot of Senegal people, and they bring to Spain very different in Islam, which is Sufi Islam, Sephardic Islam, because most of them they belong to the Tijaniya or the Muridis, which are the two main Sufi groups in Senegal. And we have also some influence of Salafi movements. We could say that probably 10% of the mosques could be from this current, the Salafi. The most of Muslims they consider themselves traditional Muslims. Well, it is not completely clear what does it mean to be traditional, but when you ask them if they belong to a movement, they say, well, I'm traditional. But there are also some Muslims that they start thinking that the Islam has to dialogue, to have an inside dialogue inside Islam, to know how to face the modernity. And so there are some reformist movements, and even we can find also in Spain what we could call modernists. So Muslims that they agree with homosexual marriage, completely with democracy, with all of that. That is also present. We have also some groups belonging to Muslim Brotherhood, which is quite important also there. But they are not the majority. The majority, they are people that the majority, they don't have a very high level of formation, because most of them are poor people coming from Morocco. In fact, in the 17th, we had what we could say the first wave of immigration. After expelling the Moriscos, there have not been Muslims in Spain up to the 20th century, and even after the Franco period. In the 70s, there started to come some Syrian immigrants coming from middle class that used to come to Spain to study. Most of these Syrian Muslims, they have led the communities, the first Muslim communities, new Muslim communities in Spain. But now, after the 90s, when especially Moroccan people started to stay in Spain, and also sub-Saharan people, step by step they are being replaced by Moroccan people as the leaders.
Thank you for this overview, Professor. It's important to understand the composition of Muslim society.
There are very few from Shia Islam.
I was going to come to that,
Yeah, there are, but they are fewer than in the world.
So most of them are Sunnis?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Now, let's focus a little bit more on that. In what ways do Muslims in Spain engage with the broader society? Majority of which are Catholic Christians. And how has the perception of Islam, and this is important, how has it evolved within the Spanish context? I mean, are there instances of collaboration, tension between the Muslim community and the wider population? And if so, in which areas do you see more cooperation versus tension?
Well, we could say that everything exists, because also the Spanish population is plural, and there are very different political movements, and there are movements that are against immigration. But to this moment, maybe the things are starting to change. But up to this moment, as the number of immigrants and Muslim people in Spain are not too much. In fact, now they are 5%. In some places, in some cities, in Barcelona, for instance, they could reach 10%.
Okay.
Which is,
substantial.
It's substantial.
Portion, yeah.
Yeah. So, up to this moment, there has not been a rejection to migration. On the contrary, we could say that Spain, in the present history, has changed his image and his reading of the history, trying to incorporate, as I was saying, trying to incorporate in the identity of Spain also this Islamic period. So the first reaction to immigration was quite welcoming. And also, that's true, that it is also because we need immigrants because there are very few children in Spain. Spanish people, they don't. Yeah, the problem. So we need immigrants to keep the level for economical reason, to keep the level of wealth in Spain. But that's true that because of the terrorism in the world, of people that they are not, but they claim to be Muslims. In fact, they are false Muslims, of course. But this has given a very bad image of Islam in Spain. That's true that every time that there is a terrorist attack, the Catholic Church and also the Muslim leaders try to, and also the rest of the society, try to explain that one thing is not related to the other, has nothing to do Islam with with the terrorism. And so we try to say to the people, no, your Muslim neighbors has nothing to do what happened in Syria, what happened in that country, what happened in another one. For instance, some months ago, there was an attack in a church in the south of Spain, and the church was the first one to say this has nothing to do with Islam, what has happened. Well, in fact, the person who did, he was mentally ill. That was clear. But because of the word of the church, the political parties from the extreme right wing, they could not use that against Islam, saying that Muslims are against Christians, because the church itself said it is not against Christians because this man is mentally ill.
So the church fenced it kind of as an isolation in itself.
So and I think this is especially because of Pope Francis, because of the work of Pope Francis, meeting Ahmed al-Tayyib here and signing this document. So this is making that the Catholic leaders, bishops in Spain, they are also in a way obliged to follow Pope Francis.
Yes.
And so their discourse about Islam is very influenced by what the Pope Francis desires.
You touch upon some very interesting topics here on the coexistence and empathy toward the other. The word that you initially used, instead of, for instance, seeing the Islamic civilization or the Arab historic presence in Spain, not as the history of the other, but one of itself, right? So to integrate, how is this, as a side question, let me bring it to you, the Spanish education system approaching this? I mean, is it taught in schools, in history, in religion, geography classes? How is the Islamic history mentioned in Spanish education system in schools?
Well, I would say it has changed quite a lot. When I was a child, it was mentioned, but not very much. In fact, we used to study Roman period. And then
and then jump straight to the Spanish kingdom.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But things have changed quite a lot, and now the Andalusian period now is studied at school in a good manner. Stressing all the good things that that period had, that it was a golden period. Of course, it is presented also the different periods of Andalusian time, because it's not the same when it was a Umayyad period, then the Caliphate, then the time of when it was divided,
the Nasri era and Granada and the Alhambra Palace,
and then the Almoravid and the Almohidun
from Morocco,
and then when Granada Kingdom started. So there are very, very different periods, and we try not to say the same of just say in one sentence all the period of Al-Andalus, because it was very plural, in fact. And there were times of very, very nice coexistence, but of course there were challenges also between communities in some other times.
You see marks of this coexistence most conspicuously probably in Cordoba, on the streets of like Juderia, and where Christian, Muslim, and Jewish communities coexisted, and they preserved the legacy through the poetry, language, and monuments, and like sculptures of famous poets and philosophers of the time, like Ibn Rushd, for instance. So that era is something to look upon. Maybe during, in this era of where one might even think of like clash of civilizations or conflictual stands between different faiths, is an era to look upon, really, and to derive some inspiration from. My last question is about the political landscape in Spain and the recognition of Islam as a religion. How does this, the presence of Islam in Spain impact the integration of Muslims into the society? I mean, the recognition of Islam as a religion, first of all, and are there specific challenges and opportunities that arise from the political frameworks regarding religious freedom and expression for Muslims in Spain? I'll give you an example. So in some countries in Europe, especially in the Balkans, but I think in some places in Germany as well, for instance, you can hear the call for the prayers from the minarets, so from the azan from mosques. But in some places you don't. And, I had heard in the past discussions around, like, why is this not allowed? It's a right, it's a human right for those believers to have it. And so what is the attitude towards these kind of symbolic marks of Islamic culture? How do they exist within the current Spanish legal framework?
I would say that in the year 92, there were signed an agreement between the Spanish government and Jewish communities, evangelical communities, and also Muslim communities. 92, it was chosen this year because it was the year of the conquest of Granada. And so it was a symbolical date to say we are rereading the history, and the history can be changed. And even if we expelled the Moriscos from Spain, now we can start a new history, living together, living with Jewish, with evangelical Christians, and also with Muslim communities. The rights that were given to Islam and also to the other communities were really extraordinary. Really extraordinary in the matter of freedom of religion. I would say completely freedom of religion. Then we have had some problems to imply these rights because for some reasons. First, because a part of the society was not prepared to give all these rights to the other religions, but also because of a problem of inside the community of Islam, that they had many problems to choose and to agree in one representative figure to talk with the government.
Okay.
So both problems were there. Now, for instance, Islam is taught at the public schools, which is quite interesting, and also the Muslims, they are free to open mosques. There are in Spain 2,000 mosques.
Wow. Okay.
Which is
quite
enormous.
Yeah, it's an important. Yeah.
Of course, sometimes they have some problems to open the mosque. Sometimes the suburbs, they are against the opening of mosque, the social. Of course, but the law is with the freedom of religion. So Muslims can apply the law, and always they give the reason to Muslim people. The idea, well, the question of the adhan, the calling of the prayer, I would say that's a bit different because, well, it is not allowed in Spain, but because some other reason. The idea is, well, if you are Muslim, you can know when is the time of the prayer. Yeah. So don't necessarily to call all the people that is the time of the prayer, all the others. So there is no. This is the reason why there is no adhan there. So not necessary for Muslims, because with the telephone, with any, well, yeah, you would know. You can know when is the time of the prayer. So don't necessarily because of that. Yeah.
Thank you for your insights. Truly appreciate it. Is there anything else that you would like to add, or that we haven't discussed about that will be of significance on the occasion of today?
Well, not about this subject, but I'm very impressed by this country. Very, very, very impressed. How it has been able from zero in some point to create a new society with so many people coming from abroad, immigrants, and I think it works in some very few space of time, in 50 years, a bit more. Well, it has been created all of this, and I find it really, really, really impressive how a country that is so plural then can can live together. So I think Emirates is really an example.
I couldn't agree with you more as an expat in this country, Professor.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Jaume Flaquer from Faculty of Theology at Loyola University in Granada, Spain. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.